Welcome back to Podcast Recovery, everyone. We're your hosts, David O.
And Eric B.
Today we are joined by our special guest, Candice. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Good.
It's actually a beautiful day here. Where are you from, Candice?
I am currently located in Aurora, Colorado. I was born in Boulder, Colorado, so I haven't ventured very far from home.
Nice. I think is she our first Colorado?
I'm not sure.
I think so. This is a new state for us. Hooray! Golf clap for you. Yay, Colorado. All right.
Colorado's awesome.
When were you first introduced to recovery?
So I was first introduced to recovery the day after my 21st birthday, which I'm not going to let you guys do math, is the day of my recovery. So that tells you exactly how old I am, although you're not supposed to ask a lady her age, right?
Never that.
Never. And so that was March the 10th, 1997. I had certainly attempted to get clean from cocaine for years and years and years before then, but always tried to do it for other people.
All right. And how long have you been clean and sober?
It will be 23 years, March the 10th. So,
congratulations.
A few years.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I actually have a random question. How did you hear about Podcast Recovery?
So I heard about Podcast Recovery. I blog about faith and recovery, and you guys had sent me a Twitter follow request, and so I followed you guys back, and that's how I heard about the podcast.
Nice. The Twitter game is strong. Recovery works.
Amen. That's right.
All right. Well,
There's quite a few hashtags that people can follow on Twitter: Recovery Posse, ODAAT, Recovery AF. Lots of really good Twitter handles. Although I find that in-person recovery is much more effective.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, it's just an extra little boost.
But Twitter wasn't around when I got sober, so you know.
It's been many moons.
Indeed.
All right. Well, with all that out of the way, we're going to turn it over to you to share your story with us. So take her away.
All righty. So I grew up in a home. Dysfunctional is probably putting it mild. Chaos was the norm.
Yep.
Consistent boundaries didn't exist. I don't remember much at all about my life from 10 to 14 when a lovely man moved in with my mother and eventually married her and used to visit me at night. So I don't remember much at all about my life. I can't tell you exactly when the visit started, how old I was. I was 10, 11, or 12, somewhere in there. Preteen. That was the time that I started raiding my mother's liquor cabinet. And I didn't really know what else to do.
Yeah.
Just to try to numb the pain, to try to, I don't know, get my mother's attention. There were so many lines that I tried to draw. There were no lines in my household at all. There were no boundaries at all. And I'd try to draw a line and I'd step over it and no big deal. So when I was 13 years old, I had a really cool, cute older brother. And he threw a kegger for me, threw a party with alcohol and older boys and unbeknownst to him, some other special stuff in the basement. And so while my brother was upstairs, and mind you, my mother was in the back room the entire time, I got introduced to cocaine.
How old were you?
By a guy who, I was 13. It was my 13th birthday.
Wow.
I was very young. But I was looking for anything to either kill the pain, to kill myself. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. I certainly didn't expect this guy. I mean, he was cute. He looked like a Mormon missionary more than a drug dealer. And at first I thought they were just pulling my leg. My friends who said there were drugs in the basement. But they weren't pulling my leg. The first line cost me a kiss. That was it. And it was, it was the weirdest sensation I think I'd ever felt before. I was so young. What I really compared it to was a roller coaster ride. Yeah. Just the hit of adrenaline, the excitement, but then the crash coming down and just being so afraid, I literally thought I was going to die. My heart crushed where I've never had a heart attack before, but just the pain was so intense. I really thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
And I welcomed it. I thought, wow, this is it. I'm going to be able to stop my heart. This is going to be the end of an existence that I certainly did not want to live. I blacked out, but I woke up, was pretty pissed. But I did. I woke up in my bed. And I told my mom they'd spiked the Dr. Pepper with Everclear. And so that explained my behavior for the next couple of days, coming down from cocaine at 13. I tried with stronger than cocaine to kill myself when I was 15 years old. It was a series of trying to commit suicide, and when that didn't work, I called the police on the mofo, and he got taken away, which is pretty amazing, but not right away. He got taken away. He was left in the home that night. Didn't get carted off until the arraignment, which really shocked me. I don't think that would happen these days, but it was a long time ago. I thought I was free, right? But I wasn't. I thought that I could quit at any time. I certainly had no qualms about quitting alcohol. Alcohol is completely accepted, but I tried so many times to quit cocaine, and for so many different reasons. I tried religion for a little bit, got with this guy that was super religious, and he thought Jesus could save me from cocaine. I tried to quit for my mom because I was breaking her heart, right? And I didn't want to break my mother's heart. I mean, she wasn't exactly, I didn't know what a mom was supposed to be like, but she was the best mom I had. I know she loved me. And I know she didn't know what to do with me. But I tried to quit for her. I couldn't quit for her. I got married at the ripe old age of 20 years old and tried to quit for him, and I couldn't quit for him. The man that I'd married was trying to save me. He had picked me up, and again, another religious one. I tend to find these. And he had never even tasted alcohol, let alone done drugs. And so he was trying to save me, but he was also a narcissist.
Yeah.
And so he was trying to control me. And one of the ways that he tried to control me was by putting me down constantly. I mean, he wanted me to be clean and sober, but he didn't want, he wanted to be the reason for me to be clean and sober, and I couldn't do it. He took off the day before my 21st birthday, and I didn't know where he was. Turned out he was just sleeping at the desk, but I thought he was gone. And so it didn't take me very long to get connected with an old contact. I had been clean pretty much since I got married. I drank like a fish, but I was clean. So I went to a party, and I tried to overdose. It was the first time, I mean, cocaine had been my best friend, but it was the first time I'd used needles, heroin, freebase, you name it, I did it. This was all happy 21st birthday Candice. And I woke up in a crack house off of East Colfax. And I slowly came to, and what sobered me up was there was a gal sitting on the couch, her eyes open and glazed over. And I waved my hand over her eyes, and she did not blink. And it was, I was faced with my own mortality, thinking, wow, this girl is dead. Yeah. And I looked around the room, and there were lots of people passed out, couches, whatever. I thought I was in a room with dead people. And it was, I flipped out. At first I was like, wow, I did a lot of stuff. Maybe I'm imagining this. Maybe this is not real. But you can bet I got out of there, house of dead people.
Yeah.
And I just started walking, and it was early in the morning. The light had not come up yet. And I just started walking. Dangerous part of Denver / Aurora. And I just started walking, and I finally found a 7-Eleven. One of the things what was interesting about that point in time is recall back to the religious boy that I tried to Jesus, whatever. he was a part of a really cool group with this youth pastor that I talked with every once in a while, and he let me sing with his group, even though I didn't even believe in God. And so I called him, and I said, I'm just going to lay this out because I know that you don't know this about me, but I'm addicted to cocaine, and I need help. And I don't know where I am, and I'm scared. And so this big teddy bear of a man picked me up. I expected to be reamed and preached at and told, you need to get saved. He did none of this. He brought me to this gal's house, and we just talked. And it was more, she was, again, not being judgmental. And I had judged myself so harshly for so many years. I mean, I had gone to youth group, right? I'd gone to church. I was trying to do the right things. I didn't believe in God, but I thought maybe religion would help me. I'm not sure what I believed about religion, but I didn't believe in God. And this gal was so cool. She didn't preach at me. She didn't even try to save me, which was very unusual for me. I was used to doing that. She just listened. She listened to my story. She, at one point, I was telling her about my stepdad, and tears came to her eyes. And my own mother never cried for me with what had happened. And yet, this gal was crying for me, and she had compassion on me. And I didn't go to rehab, which, looking back, I don't recommend at all. But I went to a meeting, and this gal broke the law. She gave me some pills that had helped her come down. I know they weren't prescribed to me, but she didn't think rehab would be the best thing for me because I told her, granted, I go into rehab, my husband's going to leave, and my life is over, and blah, blah, blah. And she said, okay, I'll just help you come down. I went to cocaine. I went to a recovery meeting, and it was the experience I'd never heard before, because I called myself all sorts of things in the world. I was a girl without identity. The things I did to get cocaine, I wouldn't mention even on your podcast. Even if you said I could cuss, it's worse than cussing. What I did, how I degraded myself, how I did everything in the world to try to get high, to get the next high, step over anybody, stole from my grandmother. These people were real. And I told them all of this stuff and expected them to run from the room screaming, especially this gal, because she seemed so pure to me. She didn't. And she was so nice to me. And it just shocked me that she would be so kind to me. And I made a really fun sponsee because I argued every step of the way. Especially, I was like, how in the world am I going to get clean and sober by saying I don't have the power to get clean and sober? Y'all are crazy. You guys are crazy. I can use the word y'all even though I'm in Colorado.
Oh, yeah, you're good.
But so I fought every step. And so I made a real fun scene. You know, people talk about, you know, you have your own kids and then you complain to your mom and they laugh at you because of your own kids. Well, that's kind of what happened with my sponsor, because I've had sponsees like myself throughout the days, women that I've led through recovery. And they were just like me. They were hard-headed. They thought they were smarter. I really thought I was the smartest person in the room. I was pretty smart, I thought. Yeah. And I really was not. But I really thought I was smarter than this gal because she was, you know, she had her GED. She didn't have a really high IQ. She didn't know all the things about history and literature that I knew. I must be smarter than her. But I found that in coming to the end of myself and in realizing maybe Candice is not as smart as she thought she was, that really powerlessness was my only answer. Because if I thought that I had any power in the world, See, smart little Candice thought, well, Coke is a problem, but why should I stop drinking? And this gal said, trust me. And I'm like, I have never trusted anybody in my life. Why am I supposed to trust you? And she said, I don't have a reason in the world you're going to have to figure that out. But if you don't trust anybody, look back and see what trusting yourself has gotten you into, and give me a call again. And I did. I called her back and I said, you're right. Candice is, I can't do this. But it took me so long to work through those first 3 steps because I was an atheist. But she recommended, there's a chapter in the big book called We Agnostics that is right before the chapter that lays out the 12 steps. And to me, that was an amazing revelation that I didn't have to pick the Judeo-Christian God to be my higher power.
Nope.
No, eventually I did. Eventually I picked God more because it was the Christians who were really kind to me and who really helped me get not get sober necessarily, although the gal that I was with was, she was Anglican. But it was those people who were kinder to me than anybody else I'd ever known. And so, but it helped me to see the perspective that I didn't have to pick the God that was in their box. I could pick the higher power of my choice. And that knowledge took away a big stumbling block for me that I think that maybe some other people in recovery, maybe someone hearing the podcast today can say, well, I've been hurt by the church, or I don't believe in God, or I don't, whatever. And that's okay, because to me, the higher power is not the most important part about it. The most important part about it, at least for me, was realizing that I'm not God. And that I'm not that higher power. And the process of recovery for me, one of the best gifts of recovery for me has been finding an identity, because I never had one.
Yeah.
I tried to find my identity in all sorts of stuff. And even though I start my meetings by saying, hi, I'm Candice, I'm an alcoholic, or hi, I'm Candice, I'm an addict, those things don't define me either. I am much more than that. I am free. I have a purpose. I have a plan. I have a brain. I'm not God, but God did give me a brain. And so I have gifts. I did all of my crazy crap before I was 21. And so I'm able to be a teacher today, which is fantastic and amazing to me that they actually let me teach.
Yeah.
Fortunately. Please don't be listening, my principal. But no, she knows. Don't be listening, my parents. This isn't the Candice you think I am. These aren't the droids you're looking for.
Yeah, nice.
But what's pretty cool about that is that because I'm a teacher as a profession, that has been one of the best things to keep me clean and sober. I went through a really rough year. 3 years ago, I lost my best friend. Another guy in the rooms actually offered to help her get a couch from someone off of Craigslist and ended up killing her. And so losing my best friend, losing my best friend in 2016, and then I buried my first sponsee that year as well. It was a gal. She was. It seemed to me like she had everything together. She had been clean for 9 months. She was in the process. She hadn't gotten her kids back, but she was in the process of getting her kids back. She had a job for the first time in years. And the way that my sponsor put it to me is she overdosed, but not on drugs. And was that maybe she knew she couldn't, that she was one of those people that it talks about in the big book that wasn't possible, that staying clean was not possible for her, but she knew she didn't want to go back. And so the fact that she was found without drugs in her system was actually a victory. Didn't feel like a victory to me. My best friend's husband also committed suicide that year, along with a guy I was engaged to and broke things off with, also committed suicide.
Wow.
And 2016, if you do the math, 2017 was that 20-year chip. And I don't know how I did it. I really don't. I wound up in the funny farm for a little bit, 3 days in recovery, and my sponsor broke anonymity to share a prayer request about it. And so here I was, stuck. I didn't want to go back to my meeting because my sponsor had betrayed me. and broken the most sacred rule of recovery, which is anonymity and confidentiality, basic requirements. Like in the group, stays in the group. But the sponsor-sponsee relationship is like a priest. It's like a lawyer. You can't say what they say to you, but she did. And it wasn't like she was trying to save my life by sharing the prayer request for poor little Candice, because poor little Candice was stuck in the psych ward and in one hold. I couldn't have killed myself if I'd tried. So, but I was able to make it through all of that, not because I had this esoteric strength in me and not because Candice is a bright and wonderful person. The thought of getting that 20-year chip, it was everything to me. That's how I made it through. I mean, those chips to me are so important. For me, it was a celebration of all the years that I'd gone through, all the crap that I'd gone through. I'd stayed sober. I'd stayed clean. There are times, there are experiences. I don't know how it happened, guys. I don't.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to tell you how I stayed clean and sober, but it's only by the grace of God. I can't answer that I did things that were really the right things to do. I probably did a lot of things, especially following my divorce, that I did a lot of things that I'm not proud of. But I didn't pick up. I didn't drink. If this program can work for me, it can work for anybody. Yeah. Because I realize now that I'm not as hot stuff as I thought I was, that I'm really super weak. But what's really great, at least to me, about the 12 steps, it's all lined out. They even tell you the prayers to pray. If you don't know what to say, I got it covered for you. You got the 3rd step prayer. You got the 9th step prayer. You've got the daily inventory prayer. They tell you, they lay it out. You don't have to be really, really smart to follow the steps and to work this program. And even though I thought myself the smartest person in the world, I didn't have a clue. I had made lots of stupid choices in my life, but that was okay because the program was laid out for me. And one thing that worked for me in the very beginning, to mix up my story around, my sponsor told me to find new playgrounds, new play places, and new playmates. And I didn't believe her. I wanted to go to parties and tell all my friends about sobriety. Yeah. And they would have ended up evangelizing me and back into the life that I wanted, that I didn't want to be a part of anymore. Yeah. But Phoenix, we're not supposed to necessarily name names, but Phoenix is not necessarily a name. It's a great community. If you guys are here in the United States, Phoenix is great because it's a group of active, sober people. And we go out and we work out together and we run together and we do active things together. Colorado is known for the great hiking trails. And my Phoenix sisters, man, they are cool. And that has been a really good way to stay in the program. I didn't go into the rooms for 2 years after Jess's death. It was too painful. But what I did was I connected with other sober women, and that helped enormously. I am a true believer that I got clean through the 12 steps. I don't know if you guys allowed me to say this on here, but man, I have not found a better way, but there are other ways. Yeah. And to me, that what matters is not picking up that drink and not picking up that needle and not doing that line. That whatever kind of community I can surround myself with, that you can surround yourself with, more power to you. I don't know. I'm not religious about the 12 steps, even though they worked for me.
All right. Fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, we definitely have some questions for you. Would you like to start, Eric?
No, you can go ahead.
I can go ahead. All right. Yeah. Okay. I'll start at the beginning of your story. So there's like the thought out there that in the recovery community that like it's sort of nature versus nurture. Like some people have different ideologies about it. Like some people believe that they were just born addicts and like no matter what happened to them, like their addiction would have manifested in some way. And other people think it's more environmentally based. And what the question is for you is, was like the lack of direction or rules in the early part of your life, was that really the catalyst for you using, or do you think you were born an addict and an alcoholic and it was just going to come out eventually?
I think that nature versus nurture is, it's probably the wrong question, because I would say it's an and or.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that the lack of direction certainly influenced the age that I picked up at. I mean, it is outside. I mean, my daughter is 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't take cocaine or anything like that, even though she is 16, because I've tried to provide her with more structure than I ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, she knows Mama's story. And so I would hope that helps her out. However, I am an addict from a long line of addicts.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, my Uncle Roger is a tremendous blessing to me, because he got clean and sober about 30 years ago. And he actually runs a recovery house in Portland.
Nice.
And so he's been a great source. But I had that addict. I wouldn't say my mother's an alcoholic, but she certainly has tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
My father is a complete gambler. Again, I don't know that he's an alcoholic. He might be. But there are other manifestations of addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a lot of that goes on within families. And I think there probably is a genetic component.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your question the long way around, they said to cut it short, too late.
Oh, you're good.
I think the nurture component was probably stronger for me.
Mm-hmm.
But the nature component probably made it harder for me to quit.
All
if
right.
that makes sense.
Yeah, that was perfect. All right. What you got, Eric?
All right, so I'll kind of go back to the beginning as well. You kind of mentioned a lot of trauma in your childhood, and the steps are, of course, something that especially with 4, is going to help kind of sort through some of that. But I guess overarching, how did you process the pain and the trauma from your childhood? And that might be through recovery or through therapy or, all sorts of recovery.
I think that probably the most important component, one thing that my sponsor told me early on is she said, "I'm your sponsor, I'm not your counselor." Mm. And she freed me to seek outside counseling. And I think that without that outside counseling to work through the trauma issues of my youth, I would not have been able to remain clean, sober. Frankly, I probably would be dead without outside counseling.
Yeah.
To me, I was able to work with an amazing therapist alongside getting clean and sober. Now, she wasn't a certified addiction counselor, but she specialized in trauma. And so she was able to work through some of the issues, and also with my marriage, because that was traumatic as well. I mean, he never did the things that my stepfather did to me. He never raised a hand to me, but he was a narcissist. And so there was a lot of emotional abuse that I worked through. But one thing that my sponsor said that was absolutely so helpful is when I went through my naming the people that I had hurt and being willing to make amends to them all, there were 2 things that she told me. One was, if I had resentments against a person, she wanted me to list my part. And when I listed my stepfather as someone I had a resentment against and I hadn't forgiven, she encouraged me to change the color of my marker and write in bold letters, "Not guilty." And I think that freed me a lot, because I blamed myself. I blamed myself because he blamed me, and I was just a child. But I thought, wow, it had something to do with the way I dressed, or I was provocative, or I was whatever, and it was all my fault, and I didn't seek help earlier. But I was able to put those things to rest. The other thing is the part that says about the amends step 9, is that you make amends unless to do so would harm yourself or others. And certainly I wasn't going to seek out this man who had abused me and try to make amends with him. Even with my ex-husband, I stayed safe. When I did the amends process, I wrote him a letter and just let him know. And that was the way that I was able to let go of those resentments and work through the trauma. But counseling was such a huge component of that.
Awesome. Okay. Going to a more positive note. We talked about lack of direction, lack of rules, trauma, all this. I want to talk about the positivity that you found in recovery and how, like you said, changing your playground, changing your people, places, and things, how a new atmosphere of positivity and love changed you and really guided you and accelerated your recovery.
Oh, certainly. I think that one of the things that you touched on was my lack of direction and my lack of focus. And I think that I was really fortunate to have my uncle be a part of my life at that time, because my uncle really stepped in and helped me somewhat to have that kind of direction. But the other amazing, wonderful thing that happened at that point is that my mother was married to an amazing man by that time. Now, she ended up leaving, but we stayed in contact, and he was able to provide me with some of that direction and some of that love that I had never received in my entire life, especially not from a father figure. And he was really able to step in and love me and give me some guidance and give me some direction. I am an introvert. And so, to be quite honest, this is probably not going to sound great. I believe in the power of community. And I did have one or two amazing friends and a great sponsor who I'm very mad at ended up moving to Las Vegas. I'm still, no, just kidding. She does an amazing work with her husband in Las Vegas. He's a CAC 3, and they're rocking Sin City for recovery. But
connect them with us. We always need more speakers. Oh,
yeah. Well, this guy, I will let you guys know. I'll put you in touch with him. He's on Twitter.
Awesome.
Which is how I found you guys. But the other thing that really gave me direction, this is going to sound really nerdy, was books. And books became my friend. And they didn't have to be self-help. Most of my books on my shelf are not self-help books. But they provided me a focus and a direction and some guidelines and some boundaries. And also going back to school was huge for me, for providing that structure that I just didn't have in my life. Leaving my ex-husband was one of the best things I could have done to get that structure as well, because when I no longer had him to control my life, I was able to develop some of those disciplines in my life and build some structure and build some unity. He also didn't want me to go to recovery meetings. He wanted me clean, sober, but not in the rooms. But what's great is that once I was able to leave him and build on my identity, I found people who built me up, people who would say nice things about me. I have an amazing brother in recovery. He actually does cartoons for the Grapevine. And he has stepped in as a big brother and just really affirmed me, both in my skills as a writer. He had me start teaching some of the group lessons because my home group they do basically a speaker meeting, which consists about one of the steps, and then it breaks up into more of a typical recovery meeting where it's an open share meeting. So it's speaker meeting first, and then it's an open share afterwards. And he actually had me teaching quite a bit as well, and that built up my confidence in who I was as a person. Because Candice was a girl without an identity. I think that this is an epidemic problem among girls who grow up without dads, but especially those of us who, me too, have been traumatized by sexual abuse.
All right, so something that you talked about a little bit during your share was faith and religion, and something that I kind of talk about sometimes like on Twitter and stuff like that, and something. I guess the question is, do you feel that there's a difference between religion and faith?
Oh, absolutely. I think that religion is a group of rules, and that religion is completely made by man. I find that religion is the cause of a lot of problems, and that religion tends to stand more on dogma. I got caught up early in recovery with some preachers that talked about having faith in your faith. And to me, it's more about the object of the faith. It's more about my higher power than it is about man-made rules. I think that especially in this day and age, that there are a lot of man-made rules out there that simply do not reflect my faith journey at all. I think that, I don't know, that faith is more based on an object of faith, namely God or your higher power, and that religion is more based on pleasing men and on pleasing women and pleasing people, really,
Yes.
And following rules that people have made rather than intimacy with God.
I like that. All right. I got one for you. You talked about in your story how you were able to, give up cocaine, but you couldn't give up alcohol. So why was alcohol different in your mind than cocaine?
Well, I think that the main thing is cocaine is not sociologically acceptable.
No, it's not. It's not the 70s anymore.
Well, and I would also say that sobriety is not socially acceptable.
Yeah.
Not in the crowds I used to run with. Man, I would say no thank you to a drink, and people look at you like you're from Mars, or they get insulted, or they think that you're being prudish, or that you're judging them, or I'm judging them. I'm like, I'm not judging you. What I like to tell my friends, especially new people that I meet, especially when I go on dates, is I will say, you can have a drink if you would like. I can't do it because they're like Pringles. I can't have just one. So I don't have any. And that's the way I explain it. I turn it back on myself. But alcohol is so socially acceptable.
Yeah.
And it's tough to be with people who aren't sober. It gets easier as the years go on.
Yeah.
I can be around people who drink now. First 3 years of recovery, no way.
Yep.
Could I be around people who drank on a regular basis. And that was hard because I lived with a drinker during the time. But he didn't spend very much time at home anyway, so that was all good. But but it was helpful to me to not be around alcohol back then. But, I mean, I guess I'm rabbit trailing your question. I'm sorry. I think I already answered it.
No, you're good. All right. Perfect. What you got, Eric?
I thought you were just putting your hand up like you had another question.
No, I was just giving you the sign that I have 2 more questions.
Oh, okay.
I have 2 more questions.
All right. So I guess my question is, how has your addiction manifested itself in your life recently? Obviously not through drugs or alcohol, but in what behaviors or actions is your addiction showing itself?
That is a really lovely question. I think with my, I would say that during the time that I was just holding out for that 20-year chip, I was a dry drug. I used everything. Relationships was probably my biggest addiction. That I was with men that I knew were not good for me. And yet I would feed the addiction part of me by making those relationships codependent, where I would either try to save them or I would try to get them to save me. I think that that's probably the biggest way that it manifests itself is in other, as I've said, socially acceptable addictions. But yeah, relationships are huge. Fortunately, I happen to be in an amazing relationship with a guy who is neither an alcoholic nor does he drink. I didn't even know that these men existed.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. When he found out that I'm an alcoholic, he threw out the cooking sherry, and that was the only alcohol in his entire condo, which is amazing of me. He's amazing.
Nice.
He drives me nuts sometimes. But
Nice. Eric and I have actually talked about that a lot recently. We've been hearing a lot recently that everybody on earth could benefit from the 12 steps. And Eric and I are of the belief that we're no, some people out there are just normal. Some people they're
just good people.
Just don't drink. Just like your significant other. Some people, I'm sure there's maybe little bits and pieces he could use, but some people just don't drink and never have and don't want to.
Or just good people.
Yeah, I think with him, it's a health issue. I think, it's just he saw what alcohol did to his parents, and he chose to not let it do it to him.
Yeah.
So he doesn't at all.
Yeah,
it's great. It's fabulous.
I have a cousin like that. His parents, my aunt and uncle, had 2 kegerators, constantly drinking beer all the time. Him and his brother. One of them drank just like his parents did, and my other cousin has never had a drop in his life. He's 2 years older than me. He's never drank in his life because he was just I don't see the point. And I'm just oh.
Well, my daughter, as far as I know, has never had a drink, and I think that she trusts me, enough to confide in me if she would have.
Yeah.
Because I've always told her, I said, if you ever find yourself in a situation at a party or whatever, and you need a ride home, you call me. No questions asked. I will come get you.
Yeah.
And I think that opens the communication between my daughter and I to where I don't think she's going to drink. That's my hope, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, she's going to have her own problems. She already does. She's 16 and, yeah. But one of her problems is not alcohol and drugs. And I think that I scared the bejeebers out of her just with stories from my past.
Yeah. That's good. All right. This is a 2-part question. First, short answer. What grade do you teach, if I may ask?
I teach pre-K right now. I have taught up to the 6th grade, but I teach the little guys right now, and it's absolutely fantastic. I love it.
So you've taught middle schoolers before?
Well, I taught up to the 6th grade. I used to teach music. So I taught pre-K through 6th grade music. But I have mostly during my career taught preschool pre-K.
Okay. Well, then I have to adjust my question. How have you, besides opening that line of communication and your daughter just hearing stories, how have you helped educate your daughter about the potential dangers of drugs and alcohol and what to look out for and how she can keep herself safe and how have you done that?
So one of the lovely things about the recovery community that I'm a part of is they have what they call pre-recovery. In other words, they have a program for kids, and then they have a program for teens. And so while she does not attend the program for teens, she did attend the program for little kids. And they would go on the same lesson that we were on. For example, when we were talking about step 1 and denial, they made masks in their little class. And I think that that's helped. But what has also helped is she has heard me tell my testimony before. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The only thing that I change if I'm telling my testimony is her father's part. Because I don't talk badly about her dad to her.
Yeah.
And that's very important for me to not, she's going to make up her own mind about Sheldon Cooper. When she gets older, but for now, I don't want her to have the same daddy issues that I had. But she is. I've been very open and honest about what drugs did to me, and I've always told her, kept the lines of communication open, and have let her ask whatever questions she's wanted to ask about it. And I think that has helped because I'm not her friend. oh no, my mom was my friend and I'm not her friend. But at the same time, I can communicate with her and feel like she has a safe place. But she also talks to some of my other friends who are women who are in recovery too.
All right. That's awesome.
Cool. So this is my last question. Since we were kind of talking about codependency just a moment ago,
I knew it.
codependency is a great topic.
You always go for that question. It's low hanging fruit.
So how do you set healthy boundaries with people today?
I think that, well, for instance, okay, I will give you an example. My significant other and I got into a really silly fight this morning. It was right before we were about to head out and go to a state park. And he had said something that hurt me. And rather than let that fester in me, I told him right away. I told him, what you just said hurt me. But I didn't stop there. I said, what I heard when you said yada, 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 what I heard was yada, yada, yada. And so we were able to talk it out. And I was able to tell him that I was hurt, and then realized that what it actually led him to apologize, but then to tell me what he had really meant by what he said. I didn't make assumptions. But the other thing that has been really healthy for me is to not expect from Vincenzo, that's my significant other, to not expect from him what I can only get from God. For instance, he is not responsible for me thinking well of myself. And he is not responsible to be 100% available 100% of the time. And he is not responsible to save me. And he is not responsible to keep me sober. And just trying to keep my expectations in check. But also to let him know when he's stepped outside of my boundaries, when he's hurt me. We are opposite politically. And so one of my boundaries is we don't talk politics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
That's a good line with a lot of people. All right.
I should tell people just not talk politics. But.
Yeah.
And what am I doing to do that? Talking politics. But.
Yeah. All right. My final question. You've worked all 12 steps, yes?
Yes.
All right. Now
Several times.
All right. Perfect. This is you have to choose one. You can only choose one. What is your favorite step?
The ninth.
The ninth.
By far. And the reason I love the ninth step is the ninth step promises. I mean, my sponsor gave me a copy of the ninth step promises. She told me all the steps are in order for a reason. And so what did she do the night that I made my decision to get sober? Mm-hmm. She gave me a copy of the ninth step. And I framed it and I put it up as a reminder of what was to come. And I found that that was true. After reaching out and making amends with people like my grandmother, whom I'd stolen money from to support my cocaine habit, like my mother, who I broke her heart the number of times that I ran away. I mean, she may not have had the skills to parent me in the way that I thought I deserved, but she didn't deserve those nights of not knowing where I was, not knowing if I was alive or dead, making those amends. But in order, after I had several months sober, was so powerful. Mm-hmm. Because to me, I said I was sorry to my mom till I was blue in the face. But the fact that I'd been able to do the actual amends process while I'd already had some living amends with my mother, it was so powerful. So powerful. I love the ninth step promises, just that they talk about self-seeking, disappearing. They talk about letting God do for us what we cannot do for ourselves. And I just love seeing them in the meetings and are these extravagant promises. We think not they are being lived out among us. They will always materialize if we work for them. There's so much hope in those ninth step promises.
Mm-hmm. All right. Great.
Cool.
And I believe Eric has one more.
Well, no, it's a Twitter question.
Well, yes.
But yes.
He's going to give it to you.
This is the Twitter question. So this is actually the easiest handle I've had in a little while.
It's a $25,000 question.
It is
actually.
LexiCat40. The question, and this is a group question, is how do you cope with toxic people in the home group?
Oh.
So, I mean, I cope with David, so I don't really know, you know?
I'm going to answer this
So
too.
toxic. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of that question. How do you deal with toxic people who
Who are in your home group?
are in my home group? That is
Yes.
a very good question. My home group is huge, and so it is one thing that I love is that we have many what we call guidelines in place. And so one of the guidelines that we have in place is that you are only allowed to talk for 3 minutes. And so when you have reached that 3 minutes, a timer goes off. It's a beep. You don't have to end your question there, but you have to wrap it up. And so those toxic people are not allowed to speak longer than 3 minutes. They can drone on and on and on all they want, but if they break one of the 5 guidelines, then the leader of the group raises their hand and they can't step outside those guidelines. And so I think that the program deals with the toxic people more than anything else. But one thing that I have done in my life is I've had toxic sponsees before, and I have laid down the law with them as well. I have done what my mother didn't have the tools to do with me, in that I deal with boundaries all the time. And I say, if you call me drunk or you call me high, your expectation is going to be one of 2 things. You call me drunk or high, the only reason you're going to get to see me is I'm gonna haul your you know what off to rehab. So you better know that you call me before you drink, because I find that with sponsees and stuff that's I don't know. I probably answered that question, but I just said you don't let them drone on and on and on. And I don't build relationships with toxic people. I want to be with people who help.
How do you deal with toxic people, Eric?
I mean, I deal with you, David.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. How do you deal with me? Do you
How do you
compartmentalize?
deal with sponsees?
Well, David and I are in the same home group.
Yes, we are.
So, so one of the things that my sponsor told me to do, a few years ago, is to kind of step away from the home group. So for me, I don't really try to participate in those decision-making processes, but I do. I know I influence things, and I don't mean to, but I do that because I can very easily be that person who takes over, kind of the direction of a home group.
I can see that.
Yeah, some things I recommended got implemented into the home group, and I did not mean for that to happen.
I made that happen.
I know you did, but I didn't mean for my suggestions to be
They were good
taken.
suggestions.
Yeah, I know, but it's still me forcing my will into the meeting or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think back. Okay, so my first home group ever, there were some toxic personalities. But I mean, you're working together as a group. It's about group conscious. It's not about my conscious.
Yes.
And, as much as I love for it to be about my conscious, it's not. So we have to come to a decision as a group. And, an important thing for people to remember is that you're not married to your home group.
Yes.
You can 100% leave.
Yep.
It might feel possessive and it might be your group. And for your recovery, it might be the place that,
There's an emotional attachment there.
there is, but you can leave.
Yeah,
You can 100% leave.
But sometimes it's hard.
But it is hard. But sometimes meetings, they are meant to die. Not and I know that sounds weird, but sometimes a meeting isn't meant to keep going. But at the end of the day, it's just trying to remember that there are people that you're going to like in recovery and there's people that you aren't. And no matter where you go, you're probably going to run into both. And that's in the home group as well. Unless you're in a very small home group with a few people, you're probably going to run into people you don't like.
Yeah. How do I deal with it? I'll answer
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah, go ahead.
I keep them at arm's length.
We're about at arm's length right now,
We're a little bit longer than arm's length. No, but like, Eric summed it up pretty well. There's some, I'll be honest, there's some people that I've had in home groups that I didn't particularly like. Now, I love all those people. Everybody I meet in recovery, I genuinely love them, and I hope that they stay clean, they find what they're looking for, and their life gets better. I genuinely have good emotions for everybody. Now, that, like, on the more specific level, like, we just might not jive together. We don't mesh well, and I'll give you a hug, pat you on the back, wish you well, and that's that. I just keep you at arm's length, and then I just turn it off like a light switch.
Wonderful Book of Mormon reference.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. So that's that. That's all of our takes on for Lexi Cat out there, how we deal with our toxic home group members. And you know what? Sometimes we can be the toxic ones too.
Sure.
We're not exempt.
Amen. That's true.
We can be somebody else's toxicity, and we have to be vigilant of that as well.
It's true.
Because we're not perfect.
We could be going against someone else's, like,
Great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't know.
And crushing it.
Yeah. And it's about working together. All right. We all rambled on. Now, Candice, we're going to give you a quick minute to talk to anybody out there who's listening, directly to somebody who's struggling with any form of addiction, and their life is unmanageable. They need that shot of hope. They need that moment of faith. What do you have to say to them?
I would say that this program, that there are miracles that happen every single day, and that miracle is available for you. You cannot go so far down that you're not redeemable. Everybody has a purpose and a plan for their lives, and that it doesn't matter how far down the road that you've gone, that if you get yourself within a community and get yourself around people for whom the miracle has happened, you don't even necessarily have to want it. You have to want it. That's where that is the point that I had to come to. I wasn't sure that I wanted wellness. But I got to a point where the pain got so strong that I wanted to want wellness. And honestly, sitting in the rooms, I've seen so many people catch it. And if you just sit, don't have to speak. You just have to hear the experience, strength, and hope of the others in the room. And I tell you what, hearing that experience, strength, and hope, we've talked about toxic people in the room. I would say that there are more miracles in the room than toxic people.
Agreed.
Keep coming back. It works if you work it, and it's worth it. I hated the cliches when I first went in, but that one is so true. It works if you work it, and you're worth it. You are precious, and you are beautiful, and you're worth it. You are worth getting clean and sober. That is the main message that I would say to someone out there who is struggling with their value, their worth, and their identity, like I did early in recovery. Man, if this program can work for me, it can work for anybody. It really can. Nobody would have bet their lives on me when I was 20 years old. No one would have bet their lives on me making it to 30. But here I am, thriving at 43 years old and just loving my life. I get to go in and look forward to a Monday tomorrow. I love my life sober. And that's a miracle. That's what I would say.
Perfect. Absolutely. All right. Well, we would like to thank our guest, Candice, for joining us today. Let's give her a golf clap. Fantastic job. We can't clap loud. We hurt the microphones.
That's true.
All right. Well, let me do our little sign out here. Here at Podcast Recovery, we are aiming to expand the scope of support for recovering addicts. Accessibility and convenience of helpful services is paramount to combating addiction. We work to bring the message of recovery to every addict, wherever and whenever it is needed. We believe that a powerful voice of recovery should be obtainable, practical, and at the touch of a button. Every addict deserves to hear a message of hope, and Podcast Recovery is here to provide it. Everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for your comments and your questions. Keep following us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, check out our new Instagram, And yeah, like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. And most importantly, stay safe and stay clean.